Sudhakar sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Ah,
Am I audible, sir? Clearly.
you are clear, sir.
Video.
Video also. Video, audio. Okay.
Fine.
What about our sir?
Okay, clearly visible. Both of you are sitting there. Okay.
Ah,
Just let me know if I want to share my screen.
ah.
I have to click here, na? On my window or desktop. Which one I have to click?
Oh, desktop, no problem. Anyhow,
Now you can see whether my screen is visible now.
your screen not visible right now.
Now, okay. Right now, 1 minute. The presentation is visible now.
Yeah,
Presentation.
your
It is
screen
visible.
is visible right now. Your
Yeah,
screen.
that. Okay, okay. Now I will take it into full mode, then I will continue the lecture. Okay.
Okay, okay, sir. Just a minute. 1 minute, sir. Good afternoon to you all the participants. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to distinguished speaker, Dr. P. Sudhakar Rao, NITR. Welcome to the participants and faculty members of the department for the third session of the FDP Robotics. Let me introduce Dr. P. Sudhakar Rao before start of the session. Biodata. He did his BTech from PDA College of Engineering, Gulbarga, Karnataka, and MTech from Usmania University, Hyderabad. Obtained PhD from IIT Roorkee. He has both teaching and industrial experience and good academic track record, research record. Till now, he has published 1 or 2 research papers in various international, national reputed journals, published 6 books, and supervised 61 MTech theses, guiding in pipeline 11 MTech students, and guiding 2 PhDs under QAP right now. He conducted 162 STCs in NITTR and 18 STCs conducted outside the NITTR. He has conducted 7 national and international conferences in NITTR Chandigarh so far, and actively participating in curriculum development programs for MTech and polytechnics in northern states. He is the reviewer of reputed journals like Elsewhere, Science Direct, UGC Care, and Taylor and Francis publications, etc. Your biodata is more impressive, sir. Please kindly start your presentation. I request Professor Dr. Sudhakar Rao to start his presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Venkatramana, sir. Thank you so much. I am also thankful to Dr. Balu also. He was also coordinating me regarding this short-term course every time, and he's updating the timetable and all the things. I am also very thankful to both of you. You are
Ah,
giving me this opportunity to share my whatever the knowledge I'm having in the robotics
yeah.
area. So I will just share knowledge to the participants. So they should learn something little about the from my presentation, whatever I knowledge have. I'm also very thankful to you for giving this opportunity for sharing my experience, sharing my academic and industrial experience to this participants. Thank you so much, sir. And
Thank
I
you,
am
sir.
also
Please.
congratulating you to conducting such a wonderful ATAL FDP program on robotics area. This is a new upcoming area, new that is latest technology you are conducting. I also congratulate you, both of you, for conducting the short-term course. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, sir. With your support, please, sir.
Thank you. Now I will share my screen, sir. Right now, I will.
Screen it not visible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now you can share it. Now you can share. బాబు అక్కడ షేరింగ్ ఆఫ్ చేసేయండి.
Okay, sir. Now. Is it visible, sir? Screen is shareable?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Can I proceed? Yeah. Okay. My screen is it visible in full mode?
Sir, it's visible, sir.
Okay, fine. So to maintain the connectivity, I just switch off that my video. Then I will keep on my audio also. So I will be presenting now. Okay. So to make up a bandwidth and connectivity problem, just I am switching off my video mode. Okay, sir. Okay. So my topic will be today, that is mainly focusing of 2D and 3D transformations. Just introduction to robotics first I will be giving, then later I will be switching over to 2D and 3-dimensional transformations with homogeneous transformation also I will be taking. Okay. So now. Okay.
Sir, Sudhakar, sir, one more request. Kindly full screen, sir. Kindly the PPT will be the full screen.
Full screen, yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute, sir. I will. 1 minute. Go to there. Just 1 minute. I will stop. Okay, sir. Now it's full mode.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Sudhakar, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll continue. My topic will be introduction to robotics and 2D and 3-dimensional transformations. Later that I will be focusing some little about on homogeneous transformation also. So whatever it may be, 3 matrix or 4 matrix. So introduction to robotics. This is a simple robot I am displaying here. So which is called a simply 3-degree freedom robot, that is. So we have in this that is shoulder swivel, simple. We have the 3 movements, yaw, pitch and roll movements. So this is elbow extension. This is, you can see, shoulder swivel. This is arm sweep, and this is elbow extension, your roll, pitch and roll. Okay, this is actually the 6 major degrees of freedom of a robotic system. So we have here rotational transverse. Okay, this is first one is rotational transverse. Second is that is radial transverse. Okay, this moment. And third one is vertical transverse. We have these 3 linear motions, rotational motions, and we have another to the gripper. We have another 3 motions, that is rolling, yawing, pitching. So that we will be discussing lately after the introduction. So my contents will be the introduction and history. So the classification of robots, depending on the what we have, different kind of classifications also for Japanese and German, Indian, American, different, depending on the other countries, we have the different classifications. Then the kinematics, what are the kinematics involved to develop a simply supported, simple 6 degrees of freedom robot? What are the kinematics involved? Then degrees of freedom. This is how you are making the degrees of freedom, and workspace, how you are calculating the workspace, degree of freedom, and all these things we'll be studying. And robot mechanisms, what kind of robot mechanisms we have, and the robot programs. We have several robot programmings in the robot while designing and manufacturing, manipulating that program. We have various robot programs. Next, that is we have geometrical data and transformations. Here, this is how we are converting the geometrical data to the transformations, that is 2D and 3D. How we are converting, that is rotational, scaling, and translational, and all this concatenation, concatenated transformations, all this. And the 2D transformations, we have only matrices with the help of scaling, rotation, translation, and these 2D transformations. After that, when you are discussing 3D transformation, we can just go to the homogeneous transformations. Again, we have a 3x3 matrix here. Then 3D transformation, here we have the 4x4 Some examples also I'll be showing further in transformations, how we have to calculate the scaling, rotational, translation, and all the things. Hmm. Next. So first, before if I want to introduce the first robot, the first it is first robot built by Honda. They have given name also for ASIMO in year 1999. It has established. So ASIMO stands for Innovative Mobility. First name Honda. You can see ASIMO. The name is given to ASIMO. So the height of this when they introduced in 1999, the height of it is 1.2 meter, and weight will be 43 kg. Hello.
అందులో ఉంది అందులో వాట్సాప్ నుండి ఇక్కడ కూడా లేదు సార్ మైకాన్ ఎవరు లేదు మైకాన్ చేశారు ఏమన్నా
The maximum speed can take up to 0.5 meter per second while walking. Okay. So this is the with the least specification they made in 1999. That is the name given is ASIMO. ASIMO stands for that is Advanced Step in Innovative Mobility. All if you take this ASIMO, the ASIMO stands for Advanced Step in Innovative Mobility. In 1999, first it is launched by Honda Corporation. Now you can see in it has recently celebrated the 22nd birth anniversary. So the ASIMO robot made by Honda Corporation celebrating its first in 14/10/99. Now 22nd that is birth anniversary. It is recently celebrated in 14/21. So this is the about just a brief introduction about. Sorry. So now we can define what is robot. How a manipulator or an industrial robot. You can consider it as industrial robot or any working robot, mechanical robot is composed of a series of links connected to each other via joints, maybe links or this. Each joint usually has a actuator, a motor, for example, connected to it. So, which is transferring the energy from one joint to another joint. A manipulator is composed of a series of links connected to each other via joints. Each joint usually again has an actuator connected to it. Robot. Then robotics is the art, knowledge base, and know-how of designing, applying, and using robots in human endeavors. How they can develop this kinematics and the dynamics. How they can develop the degrees of freedom. How we can calculate the workspace, all everything. So that study gives about the robotics. Robotics is an interdisciplinary subject that benefits from mechanical engineering, electrical, electronics engineering, computer science, biology, and many other disciplines. So robotics is not only considered to the mechanical, it is concerned to the other branches. It is interdisciplinary, you can say. So that is electrical, electronics. So they are about electrical connectivity, electronics, and this thing. They will be giving computer science. They are writing some logical programming for the robot, and biology and other many areas disorders also we are using this. Next, robotics robot means that is a forced labor and a simply worker. So robot means forced labor, simply worker. That's why the name given. Robot is a reprogrammable multifunctional manipulator. Robotics is a branch of technology which concerns about the problems of robot design, development, applications. In this robotics, we can see the problems of robot design, how we have to design, and how you can develop with the help of degrees of freedom, how you can develop this one and applications also. So the first, he is called Joseph F. Engelberger is known as the father of robotics. He invented first robot in 1954. That's why we have given as we have considered him as the father of robotics. That is Joseph F. Engelberger is known as the father of robotics. So now we can history of robotics. You can see that is in 1992, the Czech author Karel Čapek wrote a story called Rossum's Universal Robots and introduced the first Robocar, meaning worker. Already I told you that is a forced labor Robocar. In 1954, Joseph Engelberger is known as the father of robotics. he introduced the actually of the robotics design and development, how we can, what are the applications, how we can analyze the robots. In 1954, George Devil developed the first reprogrammable robot by using some programmable language. He first developed the first robot. In 1955, Denevt and Hattenberg developed the homogeneous transformation unit. That's why we call the DH transformation matrices. Why we call the DHs? That is it is invented by Denevit and Hattenberg. They developed the homogeneous transformation matrices. That's why it is called DH matrices. And in 1962, Unimation was formed, the first industrial robot and appeared in the world. 1962, and later 1973, Cincinnati Mellachron. So this company, they are also producing the not only robot, they are producing the CNC machines, milling machine, and turning machines. They are producing. They introduced the T3 model robot, which became very popular in industry. That time the competition was with the CNC as well as the robots. There was a big competition, and they introduced the CNC and as well as the T3 model robot also they introduced in 1973. In 1990, Cincinnati Mellachron was acquired by this ABV, that is Asian Brown Beverage Company. They take over this company, and they developed some robots and transformers, everything they developed. So these are the different kind of some robots. Wheeled robots are there, and articulated robots, and this SMO, and this different kind of robots applications where we are using different kind of in space applications, in dental applications, medical applications, and in army land also, in battlefield also we are using the small robots to conquer the warships. All these things we are using. A robot is an automatically controlled, reprogrammable, multi-purpose manipulating machine with several reprogrammable axes. This is the short definition. Now we can go the classification of robots, how we can develop, go for the classifications. The ZIRA, the first classification according to ZIRA, Japanese Industrial Robot Association. Then second one is RIA, that is second one RIA, that is Robotics Institute of America. Then AFR stands for Association Francais de Robotique. This is German classification. And the another one is SCARA, Puma is there also there, SCARA, Puma. The SCARA stands for Selective Component Assembly Robot Arm. So the first SCARA was developed by Mitsubishi Corporation, and ZIRA was developed by Kitchen Head company of ZIRA, Japanese Industrial Robot Association. So like this, we have different kind of classifications: ZIRA, RIA, AFR, and SCARA, and Puma. Okay. Now we can go for the types of robots. Then we have types of robots that is pick and place, where just moves items between the 2 points, one place to one place, and from another place to another. These kind of pick and place robots are used for the shop floor operations, that is mechanical, material handling, material handling and mechanical equipment handling, and part handling systems we are using, that is pick and place movement. Then a SCARA robot, that is selective component articulated robot arm, a pick and place robot arm with angular XYZ position we have. We can see this is XYZ angular positions. We can see in the pick and place. And the second one is continuous path control. Inside continuous path control, it moves along a programmable path. What kind of program we are giving along X-axis, Y-axis, Z-axis. So that is the continuous path we are giving to the programming. That is a 6-axis industrial robot, Fanuc Robotics, developed by the Fanuc company. But an additional is often spent for tooling and programming. So this is the totally 6-axis industrial robot, 3 joints, 3 links, which is totally we have the 6 degrees of freedom. And the third one is sensory of robots. That is employs sensors for feedback system. Okay. So the robot will be performed according to the sensors applications. What sensors we are using: pneumatic, hydraulic, mechanical sensor, or electrical sensor, electronic, all this. Because of that, we can give the motion to the particular robot. Robot anatomy. Robot anatomy, you can see here, simply I am showing about the 3 link, that is link 1, link 2, link 3. 3 linkages and 3 joints. Okay, first, this wheel joint, first joint, the second joint we have, the first joint, this one, second joint, the third joint here. Okay, 3 links, 3 joints we have. So simple robot anatomy I am displaying here. This is the base. to the shoulder, and this is the ender arm, where the grippers are provided here to pick and place the components from one place to another place. These are the ender arm, you can say. This is the shoulder which hold the equipment, and this is the base which the manipulator on the base. Okay, stands on base. The manipulator consists of joints and links. You can see this manipulator consists of joints and links. Here I am example of 3 joints, 3 links. The joints provide relative motion. Okay, normally it provides the relative motion. Links are rigid members between the joints, and the various joint types, linear and rotary, rotational, twisting. Also we can give various joint types. Also we have linear and rotary, and each joint provides a degrees of freedom. Here you can see this link and the second link, third link. Means it is a 3 degrees of freedom. Most robots possesses 5 or 6 degrees of freedom. Okay, 3 joints here, 3 links here, and 3 links, 3 joints. Totally 6 degrees of freedom. The minimum of the simple robot anatomy consists of the 5 to 6 degrees of freedom. Then second is robot manipulator consists of 2 sections. This manipulator consists of 2 sections. One is body and arm for positioning of objects in the robot's work volume. That's why you can take the totally space where workspace you can consider. The second is wrist assembly. Wrist assembly, the orientation of objects. So how we have to pick the components by the wrist movement on all these things, wrist assembly. So linkages will be body and arm. Ho gaya. The second one is wrist assembly. So normally the robot man consists of the 2 sections. Now we can see the workspace, how we are calculated. This is the principle. We have the 5 robots here. Cartesian robot, cylindrical robot, spherical robot, SCARA robot, articulated robot. Now you can see the kinematic structure here. Okay, here kinematic structure you can see when here load applied, here this is the movement in this direction. Here we are applying the load here, this is the movement direction. And in spherical we have the structure is in that way so that the workspace will be like a spherical. Means in this area only the maximum movement can be done with the robot is called workspace. SCARA robot, we have the load here and this is the displacement. And the articulated robot, we have this the load and this the displacement. You can see in a Cartesian robot, we have the workspace will be simply rectangular. Means in this rectangular workspace only that can be moved. The manipulator and work, everything can be moved by this workspace area. Second is cylindrical robot. Cylindrical robot, we have this round shape. Then spherical robot, we have spherical shape. Okay, these are the spherical shape. And this is the totally workspace. SCARA robot, we have this area. And the articular robot, we have this. So for each and every, depending on the principle, what kind of robot we have, Cartesian or cylindrical or spherical, SCARA, articulated, we have different kind of workspaces for each robot. Now we can see this is the very first I showed this the 6 major degrees of freedom of robotics. Here you can see the first motion is rotational transverse. This is the rotational along this axis, and this is radial transverse and y-axis. Then this is another vertical transverse, this axis, x, y, z. You can consider this. So first one is rotational, second one is radial, third one is vertical. Then again at this manipulator we have the joints here. Where we have the moment of roll this direction, yaw, then pitch. Again it is with respect to the x, this is the z, this is the x, and this is the y. So pitching, yawing, rolling. Then rotational transverse, radial transverse, then vertical transverse. So altogether it is called 3 links, 3 joints. So totally it is called as a 6 major degrees of robot. Now we can go for the some manipulator joints. How we can give the translational motion means that is a linear motion we can give. One is orthogonal motion. Okay, orthogonal joint. So through the linear joint we can give the linear motion. Through the orthogonal joint we can give the orthogonal. Here we can denote this translation motion. Linear joint means type by L. Orthogonal means O. We can denote that O. This is the input link. This is the output link. This is the joint motion. We are giving joint motion to this. And for the orthogonal joint, we are giving the joint motion here. And this is the input link. This is the output link. Output link is this one. And in rotary motion, similarly in the translation, we have the 2 motions, linear and orthogonal. In rotary motion, we have the rotational joint, twisting joint, and revolving joint. So here you can see this is the rotational moment. This is input link, output link. The joint motion will be that this movement. Okay, this is the rotational. And input link, output link, this is the joint motion. You can see this is the circular, this is the rectangle. Okay. Then third is revolving. Here it is revolving. Input link, output link. This joint will be revolving here. Okay. So that's why the terminology also we can define. Rotational means R, twisting means T. Revolving means also we can give as R, but already R is there. So here revolving, V is more stress word. That's why we are given the type V here. Okay. So both rotational revolving, we cannot give both the R signs for the both the movement joints. So here we have changed it, that is type V. Okay. That is rotational R and twisting T and revolving 3. Okay. So here totally 3 rotary motions, 2 translation motions. Right. Now joint notation scheme, you can see, uses the joint symbols L, that is linear, orthogonal, rotational, twisting, and revolving. Okay, this is V means revolving. To designate joint types used to construct robot manipulator. Here two terms are there, separates body and arm and wrist also. Okay, separates body and arm assembly from wrist assembly using a column. You can see now the example is TLR. TLR means that is twisting, linear, rotational. Then twisting, rotational. Okay. The wrist movement will be twisting as well as the rotation. But whereas the body and arm assembly, we have the twisting, linear and rotational. Commonly, body and configurations you can see. There are various body arm configurations are there. How we can denote by this DS notation, joint notation, you can see. Polar coordinate. First one is polar coordinate. Body and arm assembly we can see. So this is the moving this direction. This is a rotational. This is a twisting, and this is the linear movement. This movement is linear. So notation is we can use TRL. T stands for your twisting. R is rotational. L is your linear. So it consists of a sliding arm. Okay, this is the sliding arm L joint. This sliding arm actuated relate to the body, which can rotate about the both vertical axis. This is T axis, T joint, and horizontal axis R. Means one vertical axis you can consider as Y, and one horizontal axis this is X. So that's why two rotational moments are there. That is the T and R, twisting, rotational. One is linear. That's why in polar coordinate we can give the notation as TRL. Okay, body and arm assembly, polar coordinate TRL. Similarly, if you go for the cylindrical coordinate system, so body and arm assemblies, notation is TLO. That is, T is it is twisting, okay. L is linear movement, this is linear movement, and this is orthogonal movement. This joint is here, so it is giving orthogonal movement. And it consists of a vertical column relative to which an arm assembly is moved up and down direction. You can move up and down direction. The arm can be moved in or out related to the column. Okay, you can see this. We can move in this direction also. So that's why the notation is TLO. T stands for that is twisting. L is linear movement. O is orthogonal. So the body of the cylindrical is TLO. Similarly, Cartesian coordinate. Sorry, polar coordinate हो गया, cylindrical. Cartesian coordinate is so LOO. Notation is L. You can see this L direction. This is L. These two joints are there. These two are orthogonal. Okay, one is orthogonal, one is orthogonal. Then this is L. It consists of 3 sliding joints. So this one sliding joint, another sliding joint. This is the third sliding joint. The 3 sliding joints are there, and 2 of which are orthogonal. These 2 are orthogonal. One is linear or this linear one. One is linear. So both two are orthogonal. So that means other names include rectilinear robot and XYZ robot. Okay. This is also called, we can give the rectilinear robot. Okay. That is the notation for this Cartesian coordinate is LOO. Similarly, jointed arm robot. Jointed arm robot, you can see this is the KUKA robot actually. So we have jointed arm robot notation is TRR. So T is this base is moving this direction, okay, and this direction. This is R rotational, and this joint is also rotational. So that's why the notation is T twisting, rotational, two rotational. You can see this joint is rotating, and this joint is also rotating here. So that's why the notation for the jointed arm robot is TRR. So like this, we have four things. Polar coordinate system, that is TRL. Second one is cylindrical, we have the TLO. The third one is Cartesian coordinate LOO. And the jointed arm robot TRR. Okay, like this four we have. And the last one is SCARA. SCARA we can see. So this is the orthogonal moment we are giving. And this is the rotation moment. This is the moment V rotation. This third one. SCARA stands for selectively compliant assembly robot arm. Here the similar to jointed arm robot except the vertical axes are used for the shoulder and elbow joints to be compliant in order horizontal direction for vertical insertion task. Like this we have R, V and O. That is VRO. So now notation for SCARA is VRO. Then the wrist configuration. Now, so far we discussed about the body and arm. Now the wrist configuration also we have to see. In wrist also how we can move the components, how we can rotate the wrist to pick and place the component from one place to another. That is, wrist assembly is attached to the end of arm. Okay, end of arm. End effector is attached to wrist assembly. So we are attaching some end effectors to the wrist assembly so that we can pick the components by using the end effectors. The function of wrist assembly is to orient an effector. The function of wrist assembly is to orient the effector. So body and arm determines the global position of the end effector. Okay. Then the 2 or 3 degrees of freedom. That is the roll. This is the roll. This is the pitch. This is the yaw. Okay. The 3 moments. This one this direction, one this direction, one this direction. Okay. Then these are the RRT. The rotation for the wrist configuration rotation is RRT. You can see RRT, that is rotation, rotation, translation. Okay. Now joint drive systems. Now we can use some joint drive systems for the electric by using electric applications, hydraulic and pneumatic. So for joint drive systems, we use some kind of pneumatical, hydraulic, electrical, and systems we are using. Electric matlab uses electric motors to actuate individual joints. The preferred drive system is today's robot. This is one is the electric is the preferred drive system for today's robots. Then hydraulic mein kya hai? What happens? Uses hydraulic positions and rotary vane actuators. Here we are using hydraulic positions, pistons and rotary vane actuators for this system, noted for their high power and lift capacity. How much capacity it can lift, we can define using this. Then the last one is pneumatic, by application of air, typically limited to smaller robots and material transfer applications. We can transfer some material by using pneumatic applications. Now the end effectors. End effectors, you can see these are the grippers. So for the end effectors, we are giving these grippers to hold the component. The special tooling for a robot that enables is to perform a specific task. Two types, that is grippers to grasp and manipulate objects during your work cycle. Then the second one is tools also we are using sometimes to perform a process, that is spot welding and spray painting and some kind of arc welding. So this kind of welding purpose, we are using some tools here. So two types of grippers, end effectors we can use, grippers as well as the tools. Grippers, you can see grippers and tools. So you can see these are the kind of various tools and grippers we are using for this one, for holding the component for the robot and effectors. So now the robot control systems. Robot control system, a limited sequence control we have. First one is we have limited sequence control. Second one is playback with point-to-point control. The third one is playback with continuous path control. The last one is intelligent control. So we have four kind of, in limited sequence we have pick and place operations using mechanical stops to set positions. The second is playback with the mid point-to-point control. Here records per cycle as a sequence of points. What kind of points we are giving X, Y, Z points. Then place back the sequence during the program execution. So depending on the program, what kind of program execution we are providing to the robot. So like that we can have the sequence during the program execution. So how to control the point, how points it is moving X and Y, Z point movements. Then the next one is playback with continuous path control. This is point to point. It is moving from X to Y, Y to Z, Z to X, all this. But continuous path control, we have the greater memory capacity, and the interpolation capability will be more to execute paths in addition to the points. Some we are giving the paths also, not only the points, we are giving the some execute the paths. This x direction, how much movement, y direction, z direction, how much movement. We are giving the continuous path here. And the last one is intelligent control. It exhibits a behavior that makes it seem intelligent. The response to the sensor inputs, makes decisions, and communicate with this one human. Okay, communicate with the human. That is, exhibits behavior that makes it to seem intelligent, and give whatever the response to the sensor inputs makes the decisions, and it communicates to the human. Now the next comes to the what kind of sensors we are using in robots. So like position sensors, range sensor, velocity sensors, proximity sensors. We are using various kind of sensors. The first position sensor, it monitors the location of joints. Then coordinate information is feedback to controller. So it is the maximum coordination will be from feedback to the controller value only. This communication gives the system the capability of location and the end effectors, which is the part usually performs the task. Okay. For further, after giving this location to the end effector, further it performs the task. And the range sensor, it measures the distance between a point in the robot and interest point that surrounds the robot. Then the task is usually performed by television cameras or sonar transmitter and receivers. So because since we are going for the range sensors, so the task is usually performed by television cameras or sonar transmitter we are using and the receivers also. If the sonar or camera misses a point, then undesired coincidences may occur. Okay, so that's why sometimes we are using the transmitters also and these receivers also. Then velocity sensors we have estimates the speed using a moving manipulator. Velocity sensors. Due to the effects caused by mechanical force, gravity, weight of load, and everything, how much the load can be taken, what is the workspace load, desired speed, and acquired force to reach the speed should be computed continuously by using these velocity sensors. Then the last one is proximity sensors. Proximity sensors are the sense and indication of presence of another object within specified distances, prevents accident, and locate the existence of workspace. Okay, the proximity sensors helps in the preventing the accidents and locate the existence of workspace exactly, the location, the place, the coordinate system exactly on the robots. So like this, we have the sensors in robots of position sensors, range sensors, velocity, and proximity sensors. Then what are the parts of a robot? Now we can discuss here. The five things are main. The first is manipulator, then the pedestal, controller, end effector, power source. How this is correlated with the human body, human being, manipulator, pedestal, controller, end effector, power source. Okay. The manipulator, it is having a simple base, okay, simple base and appendages. Then we have the shoulder, okay, shoulder, then this arm, and this is the grippers. Altogether, it is called a manipulator. Okay, manipulator means it is a fully one robot. Base, appendages, shoulder, arm, grippers. Second is pedestal, that is human in waist. It supports the manipulator by giving some energy. It supports the manipulator. Acts as a counterbalance. It acts as a counterbalance. Then the third one is controller. Controller, the controls that remain the brain of the human body. It is comparatively compared with the controller of the robot and issues instructions to the robot. Then controls peripheral devices here and interfaces with the robot and humans. It interfaces with the robot and the humans. End effector, that is the last, the hand. End effector, the hand. So with the hand, what can we do? Everything that can be done by the end effector of the robot. That is spray paint attachments, welding attachments. I told you the spot welding and these various welding attachments. Then vacuum heads, then hands. So these are all the end effectors. The last one is power source. Means the energy, how it is getting energy, means power. How it is getting food in terms of the human, how we are getting the food, how we are getting energy from the food. Similarly, from power source, it is getting the energy. That is maybe the electric energy, it may be the pneumatic, So like this, we have the five main things, that is manipulator, pedestal, controller, end effector, and power source. Then arm and body motions, what kind of motions we can give to the robot? That is vertical transverse, that is up and down movements of the arm caused by the pivoting the entire arm about a horizontal axis or moving the arm along a vertical side. So we can give the motions. Then radial transverse, that is extension and retraction of the arm, in and out movement, that is the radial. The last third one is rotational traverse, rotation about the vertical axis, right or left swivel of the robot arm. So like this, we can give to the arm and body motions, we can give vertical transverse, radial, that is rotational. Okay. And revolving also we can give. The fourth one is revolving also we can give the rotation. And the wrist motions, already we know that wrist motions, wrist swivel, wrist pitch, and wrist yaw. Swivel, yaw, pitch. Okay. Bend means here, swivel you can say rotation of this wrist. Wrist swivel means rotation of the wrist. Wrist bend means up and down movement of the wrist, which also involves a rotation movement. Okay. So that is called pitching movement. Then which yaw, wrist yaw means that is right or left swivel of the wrist. That is left and right. That is panning movement. That is called yaw movement of the wrist. So like this, we can give the wrist motion to the technical features of the robot. If you want to buy any kind of manufacturing robot, particular specification, we have to see all these important technical features below I mentioned. Work value. What do you mean by work value? Work value means the movement of the robot in particular area. That is work value, work space. Precision of movement. How much precisely it is moving, and all X and Y and Z direction by using the pneumatic, hydraulic, and electric power energy. Then speed of movement, how it is taking the speed, how much speed it is moving. So whether low speed, high speed, or intermittent speed, or you can see. Weight carrying capacity, how much weight it can hold, the robot can hold, that is weight carrying capacity. Then type of drive system, whether it is electrical, pneumatic, electronic, or hydraulic, all those things. By using this, seeing all these technical features, we can go for the better purchasing of robot. Now we discuss one by one. What is work value? Work value refers to the space within the which a robot can operate. Matlab, the space, which is, it may be the rectangular space, it may be the cylindrical, it may be the triangular, all this. Rectangular, linear, all these things. It refers to the space with which the robot can operate. The work volume of an industrial robot is determined by its physical configuration, actually the size and the limits of its arm. The main work volume can be defined by the industrial robot is by its physical configuration, size, and the limits of its arm and joint manipulator. And the work volume of a Cartesian robot will be rectangular, as already I told in the previous slide. The work volume of a Cartesian robot will be the rectangular. The work volume of a cylindrical robot will be the cylindrical. And a polar robot will generate the work volume which is partially sphere. The work volume of jointed arm robot will be somewhat irregular shape. It is giving some irregular shape. Like rectangular, cylindrical, and partial sphere, irregular shape. So like this we can have, depending on the Cartesian robot, cylindrical robot, polar robot, and the jointed arm robot. The basic modular components, end effectors, I told you, grippers,
BSc.
to grasp and manipulate the object parts during the work cycle, and tool holding devices to perform a process like spot welding, spray painting, all this. We have the tool holding devices also for the end effectors. Then the wrist mechanism and sensor, basic modular components. Yes. So the basic elements of a robot, I told that is the manipulator. This is the most obvious part, consists of a base, an arm, and a wrist. Base, and arm, and a wrist. Controller, it is the brain of a robot. End effector, it is the tool or gripper. What kind of tool and what grippers can it hold? Sensors, in case of intelligent robot, sensing of environment is essential. Sensors. And energy last is energy source, power source, movement, that is energy. Movement of manipulator arm requires energy and is supplied by a energy source. It is supplied by energy source. You can see. So various energies also we can adopt here. So how much, what kind of energy we are giving, all the things. So energy source. Types of robots by application. We have different industrial robots, domestic or household robots, medical robots. Industrial means only application to the industrial purpose. Domestic or household means in-house holding components we can use for kitchen application and some household applications. Medical robots where can we give these robots to the medical purpose for the treatment of dental application, treatment of any cervical applications, all these things. Then service robots, then military robots. Military robots we can send some small tiny robots for in war field also for the battlefield. That is called military robots. Entertainment robots, okay. Some robots give entertainment for sports, dancing, singing, all these things. Then space robots, we are sending some robots also for space applications. Then hobby and competition robots. Hobby and competition is again it is badminton. It can play the badminton. It can play the cricket. It can play volleyball, and it can sing. It can sing the songs, and it can some different applications like this hobby and competition, singing and dancing, all these things. So the areas which share the robotic technology are there. What kind of areas they are sharing this robotic technology are processes. The first one is processes. Processes means the artificial replacement of parts of human body. Okay. So you can see this is replaced by the one is artificial replacement for parts of human body. The next is exoskeletons. Exoskeletons is we are using some kind of energy to hold the device. That is frames which surround human limbs or frames which amplify the available power. So with the help of available power, it can perform the movement of the robot. Locomotion devices. And the locomotion devices, machines for walking on legs. So these are the some very high size robots, locomotion devices, that is locomotion systems from machines for walking on legs. Another one is you can see in this human hand, the arrangement of bones and joints found in the human hand provides dexterity. Each joint repeats the degrees of freedom. You can see there are 22 joints here, 22 joints, and thus 22 degrees of freedom in the human hand. So totally the degrees of freedom is 22 degrees of freedom. You can see totally 27 bones. You can see the green color and this blue color, red color. You can see this is the first one is 8 carpels. This 1 to 8 joints are called as carpels. Then these 14 this phalanges and metacarpals 5. These 5 carpels are metacarpals, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 thus these are called. So total if you add this 8 plus 5 plus 14, so it will giving totally the 27 bones. The degrees of freedom will be 22 degrees of freedom here. Okay. So you can see the first, second, third, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 degrees of freedom we can give for 27 bones. Okay. This is one kind of Puma. Okay. This is Puma. Programmable union metallic actuator in his name. And examples of Stanford arm, it is Stanford arm. You can see some kind of robots. You can see the humanoid robot having 20 centimeter tall and 7 centimeter ground weight with 26 joints and 2 CCD cameras. So it is developed for the JVC. It can hold 750 gram weight and it is 26 joints and 2 CCD cameras it is holding. Now the Asimo robot teaching lessons to children and dancing with children. I given some applications in like it is giving some dancing, singing, and playing. All this we can see this Asimo robot teaching to the lessons for the dancing with the children. Guide robots. Guide robots are these guide robots are can be sent to the in army battlefield for the this for safeguard the soldiers and all the army officers. So we are sending in the robot in the battlefield to safeguard. Guide robot. These are the robots. We can see some applications. This Simo, this is the articulated. This is applications of different manipulators. This is by using all these various applications. We can see six-legged robot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 here, 3 there. Total 6. So we can construct a big structured robot by six-legged robot. We can structure by adopting pneumatic, hydraulic applications of robots, and we can fabricate this total robot. Basing a radio controlled spider robot. This is since it is having spider shape, it is called spider robot. So we have these 3 legs here and the 3 legs here again. This grippers we are using here to hold the devices, and the spider with the camera. We are keeping the camera on this. So, okay, the 6-legged spider robot. We are holding this camera. And some space applications, we are using this kind of robots. Wheeled robot, you can say, wheeled robot, the for movement to another wheeled robot. Example of industrial robots. Industrial robots we have, that is industrial robots performing spot welding in an automobile assembly line. If you see nowadays in automobile area, some areas it is in the assembly section or any part assembly section, painting section or anything. So we are using some sophisticated robots which can perform spot welding, painting, spray painting, coating. All this is functioned by these robots. That's why humans are replaced by these robots nowadays to get the high accuracy of the product and high performance of the products. Now we can see this, it is doing the in automobile trimline section. We can use this kind of robots which performs the. Sometimes robots also we are using for the CMM purpose, coordinate measuring person. Here we can see the CMM stands for coordinate measuring machine. It is a CMM machine, GS Corporation company. So where we can, by using the manual handling of this remote manipulator, we can just get the dimensions of the component. Then after getting the dimensions, we can make this model by using the CAD/CAM software. Simply the output of this CMM robot is to generate a geometrical points. After getting geometrical and coordinated points, we can make a model of that component. I can go for the machining. So like simply we have the reverse engineering type. So first getting the generation of control points, then modeling, go for the surface modeling, solid modeling, then go after getting the final product, go for the machining, so that you can get a final finished product. So like this, we are using some robot type of CMM machines also. Then the Faro arm portable CMM. This is a portable Faro arm. This is AMM. We can just these are the handy. We can go to some vendor site. Then with the help of this portable CMM, we can measure the component size, dimensions, everything at the vendor site. These are the tiny to handle. These are having tiny size to handle to take it anywhere in industry side, any vendor site. We can just go for the with the help of the CMM. Then we can find out the geometry of the particular components. So like small portable CMM also we have. Very gantry type robots also we have. Gantry type means very big size. Because robots also we have. Now we can see the top 10 countries by robot industry, which country are using more amount of robots. You can see, if you see the all continents, Africa, Europe, America, Asia, Australia, all these things. The total, the highest robots are using by this Japan, 295 you can see, Singapore later, South Korea, Germany, Sweden, Italy, Finland, Belgium, US, Spain, you can use. If you go over the regional averages wise, the world it is using 32% of the robots, and Africa it is using 2%. Asia and Asian countries they are using 27. America, South America, North America 31%, and Europe countries they are using 50% of robot the developed industry. You can see in Asia we have the maximum that is Japan 295. It is showing that so maximum industry we are using. So these are then types of robots by locomotion and kinematics. We can have the stationary robots, wheeled robots, and legged robots. So far we discussed about the stationary robots, wheeled robots. Now we can discuss the legged robots also, including this slide. In stationary robots, that is including robotic arms with a global axis of movement we can give, that is Cartesian, gantry robots. Cartesian gantry means very big size robots. Those are all for using very geometry to get the geometry pointers of the heavy vehicles, that is automobile vehicles, automobile trucks. We can get the dimensions by using the CMM. Cartesian, gigantic robots, cylindrical robots, another thing. Third one is spherical robots. Then the last one is SCARA robots. So these are the SCARA. Then the wheeled robots. In this wheeled robots, we have single wheeled robot. It is having only single wheel. And two wheeled robots, we have two wheels. Three and more wheels also we have. That is for locomotive purpose we are using. Locomotive design purpose we are using these wheeled robots. Then legged robots, again legged robots, that is humanoid robots we can consider. That is bipedal robots, tripedal robots, quadrupedal robots, hexapod robots. So these legged robots also we are using for the heavy structure of robots which can walk on the legs. These robots can walk on big legs. That is bipedal robots, tripedal robots, quadrupedal, then hexapod robots. So this is a simple structure of a simple 6 major degrees of freedom of robotic system. There is rotational transverse we have, vertical transverse, and the radial transverse. And other three rotation moments are that is roll, yaw, and pitch. Okay, totally 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6. Totally 6 degrees of freedom. Here this is the radial. It is giving the radial moment, linear moment, whereas these two are giving rotational and translational moments. Okay. Here these three, at least we have the three things, pitch, yaw, and roll. Other three things are roll-ups only, rolling. In the classification, we can see the arm geometry. Depending on the arm geometry, we can consider rectangle. Arm geometry means again it is your workspace. How this robot can reach maximum area and to pick and place the component. That is the rectangular space, cylindrical, spherical jointed arm, then jointed arm, horizontal. Okay, rectangular, cylindrical robot, spherical jointed arm, then jointed arm, horizontal. Then next comes about the degrees of freedom. That is robot arm, robot wrist. We have the two kind of this is arm and the body and the wrist. So totally we have the 6 degrees of freedom. In a simple articulated robot, we have simple 6 degrees of freedom. That is robot arm, robot wrist. Power sources, again it is electrical. The power may be electrical energy may be using pneumatic energy and hydraulic energy to operate a simply this robot. We have different kind of power sources. Then type of motion, that is slew motion, joint interpolation, straight line interpolation, circular interpolation. So screw motion, jointed interpolation motion, straight line interpolation, circular interpolation. Then it is giving the path motion only, type of motion, that is point to point. The next is path control. How we can give the path control, that is limited sequence, point to point, continuous path, controlled path. Okay. So four kind of this path control can give limited sequence up to limited area only it can move. Then the point to point from X to Y, Y to Z, Z to X, all these things. Continuous path. It is giving the linear movement to the particular this controlled path also. Okay. Then intelligence level is low technology, non-servo, then high technology, servo technology. That is intelligence level. So how accurately it can perform the function of robot. Now the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom are grip of a robotic system can be compared to the way in which the human body moves. So the how human body moves in that way that we can define as the degrees of freedom. So for each degree of freedom, a joint is required. Okay, obviously. For each, suppose 3 degrees of freedom means 3 joints are required. So degrees of freedom defines the configuration. Okay, whether it is a configuration means polar Cartesian system, Cartesian coordinate system, then linear coordinate system, and articulated system. Then each of the five basic motion configuration discussed previously utilizes 3 degrees of freedom in the arm. So the 3-degree freedom located in the wrist give the end effector all the flexibility. A total of 6 degrees of freedom is needed to locate robot's hands at any point in its workspace. Workspace may be rectangular, circular, spherical, or irregular shape. Then, although the 6 degrees are needed for maximum flexibility, most robot employ only 3 to 5 degrees of freedom. Normally, if you take any simply articulated robot, it will be having 5 degrees of freedom or maximum 6 degrees of freedom. The more the degree of freedom, the greater is the complexity of motions encountered. If you want to go, if you want to fabricate, if you want to fabricate, if you want to develop very more than 6 degrees of freedom robot, so then the greater is the complexity of motion encountered. So the motion will be, the fabrication time will be taking place. The 3D graph located in the arm of a robotic system are then rotational transverse, that is the movement of the arm assembly about a rotary axis, okay, a rotary axis such as the left hand, right hand, swivel of the robot's arm about a base. Then the radial transverse is the extension and retraction of arm and in and out motion related to the base motion. The last one is the vertical transverse. The vertical transverse provides the up and down motion of the arm to the robotic arm. That is called linear or orthogonal. Okay, it can give the linear orthogonal. That is about your arm and robotic arm. That's a 3 degree of freedom located in the wrist, which bear the names of aeronautical terms are, that is pitch and bind. Okay, if you are considering the aeroplane about the movement of the pitch or bend, then yaw, roll or swivel. You have the pitch, yaw, roll. The pitch is also called as bend and roll is also called as swivel. You can see the three different of degrees of freedom. It is the up and down movement of the wrist, okay, up and down movement, like this up and down movement. Then yaw is the right and left of the movement, wrist, left movement, right movement. Then roll or swivel is the rotation of the hand. So how it is moving clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction. So like this, 3 degrees of freedom we can define. Then is pitch or bend, that is the up and down movement of the wrist. Then is the right and left movement of the wrist. Then roll or swivel is the rotation of the hand. Okay. Now the robot programming. Now we are coming to the typically performed using one of the following robot programming are online programming. Online programming is teach pendant and lead through programming. Teach pendant means we have like remote, we have the teach pendant. Similarly, we have the remote, we can perform the television function. We have the teach pendant, which controls as a remote, which performs the movement of the robot. Okay, teach pendant. And the lead through program is also there in online. Offline programming, we have the different robot programming languages. Then task level programming. Okay, what is the task we are giving to the end effector? What is the task we are giving to the manipulator? All these things. Okay. Programming methods are offline. You can see if you are considering the offline program, writing a program using a text-based robot programming language. Text-based. Okay, means you have to write in the text form and does not need access to the robot until its final testing and implementation is required. So for that, does not need the robot until the final testing and implementation. In online programming methods, you can see use the robot to generate the program. Online method, that you can use the robot to generate the program. Teaching and guiding the robot through a sequence of motions that can then be executed repeatedly. Combination of programming is often programming is a combination of online and offline. It is combined. Online to teach locations in spaces, and offline to define the task or sequence of operations. The offline is the define the task means whether from how long distance, how much distance it can pick the place component and these things. In online to teach the locations in space. So what is the location it can define. The other programming languages are large number of robot languages available in this area, that is AML, VIL, REIL, Robot Studio. So there are so many robot programming languages, more than 200 plus we have. Each robot manufacturer has their own robot programming language, depending on the controllers, what kind of controllers they are using, like FANUC and different FIDIA, Cynumeric, and these kind of different controllers, we can have different programming. No standards exist here. Portability of programs virtually non-existent. The portability of programs. Okay. So you can see the comparison between the CNC machine as well as the robots here. So if you are considering the point of robots, what you have to see. If you are considering the CNC machine, what characteristics you have to see. The applications is, it is primarily conventional and non-conventional traditional machining, and this is the primarily for material handling and assembly and also humanoid functions. So the humans are replaced by these robots. That's why it is called humanoid robots. Okay. Online programming methods we have written in G and M code format. Here in the CNC machines, we are writing the programming in the with the help of G and M codes. So G stands for generative codes, M stands for miscellaneous code, which also called as machine codes. G stands for generative, geometry, or preparatory codes. M stands for machine codes, miscellaneous codes. So stands for geometry. What kind of geometry do you require? Like diameter, the cross section, length, and all these things. Geometry, circular or radius, fillet, all these things. M stand for which controls the machine, like the spindle on, spindle off, coolant on, coolant off, which controls machine. That's why it is called machine code. G start, which controls the geometry of the component. That's why G codes. With the help of G and M codes, we are writing a program here. But whereas in the robot programming, we have the teach pendant method by using the teach pendant method, then walkthrough method, and teleoperation method. We have different kind of methods. Then offline programming method we have same for both. These are language based. Okay, what kind of language based? Then model based interactive. Then CAPP, computer aided process planning based automatic methods. Both things we can use for the offline programming for the CNC as well as the robot. We can use sensory capability. So what is the sensory capability? In the CNC machines, it is having a low sensibility, and whereas in the robot, it is having the high sensibility. So through this high sensibility, we can avoid the accidents, we can avoid the destructures to the component, okay, all these things. Then the kinematics. What kind of kinematics we are using here? Popularly Cartesian 3 to 5 axis only. If you see in the CNC machine, we are having 3-axis machine, 5-axis machine. So here, what do you mean by 3-axis machine? 3-axis machine means only the movements will be only in the linear axis, X, Y, Z, linear axis. Then 5-axis means we have another 2 rotational axes. X, Y, Z will be linear, and the other 2 axes, that is all called A and B axis. So those axes will rotate along the X axis, along the Y axis. So here means 5-axis means we have the 3 linear axes, 2 rotational axes. These 5-axis machining is required to manufacture, to machine the component of very complicated, very curvature shape component, very complex objects, you can say. That's why we are using very complex machining of complex objects. We are going for the 5-axis machining. So examples are like turbine blades, impellers, cavities, crankshaft machining, connecting rod machining. We are using this 5-axis machine. Here in the robot, many kinematic arrangements are possible. Normally 6 axes here, 3 linear, 6 axes are matlab all are rotational, 5 rotational, 1 will be linear here. Okay, depending on the 3 linkages, 3 mechanisms, we have the totally 6 axis degree freedom. Whereas in this CNC machine, the maximum is 5 axis. Okay, accuracy is here. By machining purpose, we have good accuracy here, and rigidity is also very high. But whereas the robot, when we are considering for the accuracy, for the machining purpose, especially, it is having low, and the rigidity purpose, it is having low. So these are the just classification between the CNC machine and robots. How we are having the axis formation, how we have different kind of axis here, and rigid construction. We have low inertia, then low friction and play, then good damping, minimization of thermal effects. use of advanced electrical and electronics and computing, then errors compensation. Here the error compensation is we have axis calibration and pitch error compensations, diameter and length compensations, adaptive, that is control. Then accurate manufacturers, error compensation we have. Then accurate manufacturing, use of accurate manufacturing processes. So like very accurate manufacturing process we can use. So here, if you see the CAM and the computer manufacturing and robot manufacturing, so here the just before going to robot manufacturing, I will explain about the CAM manufacturing. Here the first we have to make a design model. This is the workpiece. What kind of workpiece we are? That is a raw material. You can say raw material. This is the actual design model, and we can assemble these two. That is called as a manufacturing model. In manufacturing model, we have the design model as well as the your workpiece surrounding the green color. Okay. So normally in the CAM computer manufacturing software, the green color shows always the workpiece, and the white color shows the design model. We have to machine in such a way that we have to remove the excess material of the workpiece so that we can get a final design model. Okay, that is called a CAM. So here manufacturing model, machine tools. So depending on the component dimensions, we can assign the machine. Whether we have to assign a CNC milling machine, CNC turning machine, all this we can decide. If it is a flat component machine, so we can go for the CNC milling. If it is a cylindrical component machine of workpiece, then we can go for the CNC lathe machine. Then set up manufacturing database. We have to set up a manufacturing database here. Okay, set up manufacturing means we have to give the numerical control operations, set of operations, numerical control sequences, what kind of sequence we are using, pocketing, mill, profiling, knurling, turning, threading, all these things we have to give. And here after selecting the machine tool, that is work cell, like turning or milling machine, we can assign the tool also. What kind of tool is required? Suppose I want to go for the step turning, we can use a simple tool we can use. Suppose I want to go for the end milling, I can use the milling tool. Okay, like this, depending on the manufacturing base, we can use the tool, whether it may be a turning tool, whether it may be a milling tool, knurling tool, drilling tool, all these things. Then suppose sometimes if the fixtures are required to hold the component, to hold the setup device, some fixtures also required. Then here set of operation. You have to give the operation. What kind of operations you give? Define NC sequences. NC means that is numerical control sequences. Here, depending on the product size, dimension, we have to give the numerical control. Suppose I want to remove the excess material. First, I will give the profiling. Profile machining, value machining I can give. Second, if I want to make some pocket cut in the rectangular block, I'll go for the pocketing machining, pocketing. If I want to drill some holes in that particular workpiece, I'll go for the drilling operation. If I want to make some thread on the workpiece, I will go for the threading. If I want to make any kind of step turning process in that work component, I'll go the step turning. Okay, step turning, knurling, threading, all this. Depending on the product design, you can define the NC sequences. Once you define the numeric operation and the sequences and tool diameter and machine tool, then it will create a CL data file, which is called as a cutter location data file. The cutter location means how the cutter is moving in X direction, Y direction, Z direction. So it is giving some in high level language, which computer does not understand. Okay. For that, the post process is required to convert that APT language, that is advanced programming tool, high machine language, to the G&M codes. So that is required. Post processing is required to convert the cutter location data, which is in the form of APT, advanced programming tool. So that will convert, this post processor will convert the data into G&M codes. Exactly now with the G&M codes, that G&M codes, if you feed to the CNC machine, it will cut the material. Because the numerical control, NC CNC machine only needs G&M codes data. It don't require any kind of APT program, any kind of high machine language, any kind of coding language. It requires only the G codes as well as the M codes, which performs on the machine, so that we can machine the component, we can get the final component. So the post process, role of post process is to convert the CL data file into the G&M codes. Okay. Then finally, whatever the G codes nowadays we are getting, we can give it to the CNC machine. We can feed this data to the CNC machine. then we can get a final finishing. This is about what happens in the this CNC machine. Similarly, we can discuss about the robot machining also, how we can view. So now we can discuss about the transformations here. So far, these are the about the how we can generate the transformation, all these things. Computer graphics and transformations are required. So the objectives of this one is to convert vector straight lines to raster images to the displayed on the raster terminal utilizing the pixel information. So the CRT cathode ray tube, that is the monitor. So we are using some kind of images on the raster scan. That's why it is called raster scan CRT. Earlier in TV, we are using CRT tubes. We are using very lengthy size. That's why it is the TVs are very high, very heavy, and the technology also very old. Nowadays, we are having LCD, liquid crystal display, LED, plasma, and LLED, OLED. We have these kind of screens nowadays to show the images on the screen and understand the problems associated with displaying vectorial information on the raster terminal. Various steps of coordinate system used in displaying CAD transformation. So various steps of coordinate system here, those are called all world coordinate system, central coordinate system, polar coordinate system, all these things. The data requirements of a graphic image and the database storage methods used are, and learn about the engineering data management system. Here different types of geometric transformations used during the CAD geometry generation and display and their evaluation. Then the mathematics required to display 3D image on a 2D screen of the display. So what kind of algorithms, Boolean algorithms we are using, Bressenhans algorithm, line algorithm we are using to display the 3D image on the 2D screen of the display device, whether it may be the CRT screen, whether it may be the LED screen, whether it may be the LCD screen, whether it may be the plasma screen and TFT screen. Okay, all this we can convert this language on the screen. Understand the problems associated with the display of graphic images in the display screen, such as clipping and hidden line elimination. These clipping and hidden line emulations are using the Boolean operations like this DD algorithm, Bressenhans algorithm we are using to learn about adding color and shading to the display for better visualization. So everything will happen on the 3D image with the help of animation. The coordinate systems are the right hand coordinate three. The right-handed partition system.
So Sudhakar sir, your voice is not getting. Please kindly unmute, sir. Sudhakar sir. Yeah.
Now it is okay. Hello.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah. Okay, sir. It's everything fine. Right. Thank you.
Just 1 minute. So these are the coordinate systems we have: world coordinate system and user coordinate system, display coordinate system, which helps for this transformations, all these things. You can see this is a simple component to be modeled. So this is the isometric view component, how we can represent in the scaling and how we can represent the translation and rotation and all this is we can represent. World coordinate system, this refers to the actual coordinate system used as master of the for the component. Sometimes it may also be called as a model coordinate system. Okay. So here you can see the typical component with its associated with the WCS world coordinate system. It is actually the surface we have the X, Y, Z levels. So X, Y, Z. Through this system, we are generating the points at level X level, Y level, Z level, like 000, 001, 003. We are doing all these things. Okay. That is a WCS. And the second one is user coordinate system. Sometimes it becomes difficult to define certain geometries if they are to be defined from the world coordinate system. Sometimes it is not possible, WCS. So in that case, we are using the user coordinate system. In such cases, alternate coordinate system can be defined related to the WCS. These coordinate systems are termed as user coordinate systems, shortly called as UCS. It is also called as working coordinate systems. You can see now in this picture, this is the world coordinate system X, Y, Z. Suppose if you are not able to define at this level, we can define at this level. You can see that is the X, Y, Z direction. This is called this is called user coordinate system. Okay, X dash, Y dash, Z dash. If we want to combine these two coordinate system, then we can see the next further slide. Display coordinate system. This refers to the actual coordinates to be used for displaying the image on the screen. Here display coordinates we can use WCS as well as the UCS. Okay, you can see here we can represent the typical component with its various view positions. Front position you can see from here, top position we can see from here, and right side from this you can see the position. This is called view position system, display positions. You can see the front view, top view, side view, left side view, right side view. All these four views you can see. You can see here various views generated from the model. This is the front view, this is the top view you can see for that particular isometric view, and this is the right side view. Okay. The geometric model data. The most of the geometric modelers, a combination of random and sequential form data storage is used. That is, you can see the data structure of geometric models are like this. If you see this totally isometric project, and this is the surface, we can represent the surfaces, we can represent the vertices, these vertices, and we can represent the edges also, this edge. Edge is the two vertices, with the help of two vertices, we can define the edge. With the help of edge, we can define the surface. With the help of surface, vertex, edge, we can define the total solid. You can see here, these surfaces, vertices, and edges. So all together, we can define a solid. Okay. The complete data structure for geometric models of products are vertices, you can see, edges, faces. Faces you can see. Then you can generate a solid body. Then single parts, you can have up to single part, you can develop a single part. If you want to go for the assembly, you can assemble all the single parts by using the attributes. Attributes means that is intersection, union, and subtraction. These are the attributes we are using. Like in Boolean operations, we are using subtraction, addition, then assembly, subtraction, addition, intersection. Okay. Here by using these commands, we can assemble these components like insert, mate, align, orient commands. Insert, mate, align, orient commands. We can assemble the parts. Then finally, we can develop a product. Okay. So this is the total data structure it is giving when you are generating from the scratch. This data structure helps to the transformations. Now we can see the transformations. Scale triangle. If you want to scale this triangle, here the transformations are scaling, rotational, translational, and concatenated transformations. We can see here, if we see the scaling of a triangle, the transformation you can see the first point is A40. It is having 4 units in x direction, 4 is x direction, y direction it is 0. So 40 A. Second point is B. It is having x in x direction 1 unit, in y direction it is having 2 units. And the last C point it is having 3, 5 means it is in x direction it is having 3 units and y direction it is having 5 units. Suppose I want to double this scaling the double this triangle. So what will be my coordinates? Okay. Here 1, 2 is there. This is 4, 0. This is 3, 5. If I want to multiply by these 2, I can get a new point that is 2, 4. Okay. 2, 4. And this is multiply by 1 into 2. That is first you take x. 4 into 2, 8. And 0 into 4, 0. Second coordinate will be 1 into 2. 2 multiplied by 2, 4. And this is similarly 6 and so the scaling will be doubled here. First initial scale you can see the size of this triangle, and later after scaling double you can see the triangle size. This is called transformation. How we are transforming the geometry dimensions into the larger scale. Similarly we can go for the 4 times also, it is still bigger. Okay, like this is scaling also we can do. Second is translation. Translation means shifting from one place to another. Translation you can see the moving the drawing or model axis on the screen is called translation. Here you can see, suppose I want to, this is first unit is A11, 41, 45, 15. You consider as A, B, C, D, original rectangle. I want to move this in X direction 30 units, Y direction 30 units. X direction 40, Y direction 30. Then you can see here 1 is there. So add 1 plus 4, then it will be 5. You add 1 plus 3, here it is 4. So 5, 4. The new element for the second coordinate, that is 4, 1 is 8 plus 4. Okay. Then the third one is 4, 5. You add here 4 and you add here 4. So 5, 8, 8. Okay. Adding here 4 plus 4 gives 8 and 5 plus 3 gives 8. And the last coordinate 5, 8 we have. Here add 1 for the x direction, you add the 4 units. 4 plus 1 is 5. Then the 5 plus 3 is 8. So the next, that is the translated element is, that is 5, 4, 8, 4, 8, 8, 5, 8. So this is the rectangular after translation in x and y direction. Okay. In x direction, I am moving the 40 units. Y direction, I am moving the 30 units. But similarly, the equations we have for the translation, this x1 equal to x plus tx, y equal to y plus ty. Actually, it should be y1 here, y1. That is y plus y ty. X means the translation in the x direction. If it is ty means the translation in y direction. Okay. So this is about the indication. So sorry. Next is rotation. Rotation is we have cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta. Okay, this is the 2 by 2 matrix. We have, suppose I want to rotate about the 45 degrees angle here. Theta is 45 suppose. So I am giving the displacement point 40, 20. Means it is in x direction it is having the 40 units. Okay, it is having the 40 initial point, 40 units. And the second it is 20. Okay, 20 points. Okay, this is 20. Okay, 40, 20. Here it is 4, here it is 2. Means the first point is P1. After rotation about the 45 degrees angle, what will be my new point? That is P1 to P2. This is the new point, P2. So here in x direction I am having 40, y direction I am having 20. Okay, 40, 20. Then if I want to rotate by 40, theta equal to 45 degrees, then I will replace the theta by 45 degrees, cos 45, sin 45, minus sin 45, cos 45. Now the values you can just, cos 45 is 0.707, these are all the values we are getting. Then multiply by this 2 by this 2 by 4 matrix, the 2 by 4 matrix, then you will get these new coordinates, 14.14, 42.42. Now this is the your new generated rotation point, 14.4. From x direction it is 14.4. For y direction it is 42.42. So the angle is 45 degrees. The initial line, this one, after translation about the 45 degrees, my line will be like this. Okay. This is about rotation about x-axis, and y-axis, this is we are getting only it is moving in x direction. Okay. This is P2 point. So like this, we have different kind of translation, matrices, scaling, transformations. You can, that is scaling, rotation, and translation. And another one is shear. Shear means movement in x direction and y direction. Suppose x equal to 1, y1 is equal to sx1 plus y. So here y1 is not shearing along x-axis. If shear is taking place in along x-axis, I can denote as sx1 x plus y. Okay. Y shear apply to the next. Suppose if I apply to the x shear, y shear. Y shear transformation to the point xy to the point x1 y1. This is the y shear, xx1 plus y. Similarly, you can take the shearing along the plane x. Okay. So this is along the movement y direction. The shear is along y direction. The initial points are A, B, C, D, E. This is the actually original part along x-axis, along y-axis you can see. So now I want to change the shear along y-axis. So this A1, B1, C1, D1, E1. This is the after shear along y-axis, after of y shear. These are the new points I am getting. This is along the y shear. Suppose I want to shear in x-axis. My original part will be A, B, dotted line you can see, A, B, C, D, E. I want to shear along x-axis, that will be A1, B1, C1, D1, E1. This is after x shear. Since it is moving in x direction, it is x shear. Since it is moving y shear, it is called y shear, y direction. Okay. So like this, we can give the shear moment also for the transformations. The transformation means just displaying your image on the screen by using the scaling operation, rotation, and translation and sharing. That's why these transformations are very important in the display lesson. Now we can see the homogeneous transformations. Now, three homogeneous transformations. First, you see the translation scale, translation case. That is x1, y1, 1. Okay, xy 1. Okay, x1, y1, 1. This is the new coordinates. This is the xy1, and the 3 by 3 matrix will be for the translation. You can see 1 0 0 0 1 0 tx ty 1 means translation in x direction, translation in y direction. So this is the full matrix for the homogeneous transformation for the translation. Similarly, for the rotation, we have the x1, y1, 1, xy1, that is cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta. And remaining will be 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. This is the rotation for the rotation axis. Similarly, scaling, that is xy1, xy1, the scaling, that is sx 0, 0, 0, sy 0, 0, 0, 1. Here, since we are discussing only the 2D transformations, the shear along x-axis, shear along y-axis. Okay, sxy, you can see this is the scaling. Now the x shear I want to go, that will be in x, this direction sx, shx 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. That is x direction. This is the x, and in y shear we have the values xy1. This is the y value. Okay, you can see y, that is 0, shy 0, 1. So normally 0, 0 will be the common for all these six. 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1 common. This is 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 common. And this is common. This is common. Only 2 by 2 matrix is changing. 1, 0, 0, 1. Cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta. Sx 0, 0, sxy. 1, 0, sx 0. 1, shy 0, 1. Okay. So these 2 by 2 matrix will be replaced for this homogeneous transformation. So if you want to go in x shear, it will be here x, y shear will be like this. So then why it is called the 3 by 3 matrix. Now matrices are example, you can see respective transformation matrices are, that is 1 0 0 0 1 0 minus tx minus ty 1. This is the translation. Okay, translation will be, that is minus minus 1. Then cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta. This 0 0 will be common, 0 0 will be common. And if you go for the positive, that is tx ty 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 0 tx ty 0. This will be common. Okay, this will be common. And if you go for the concatenated combined, concatenated means combined. If I want to combine the matrix of translation as well as the scaling as well as the this translation along positive, translation negative, then concatenation combined matrix will be first 1 0 0 0 1 0 minus tx minus ty 1, first matrix. It is rotational about x and y, and the second is scaling of cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta 0 0 1 0 0 1, and the next one is 0 1 0 0, that is positive translation. So after multiplying these two, you will get a very new element, new system, that is called your concatenated matrix. So that you can see here, the AB value is there. I am having the 4 and Y we have 3. Okay, this is the value. And the first before concatenated, after concatenated I have this one. Okay, that is, this is moving from this direction to this. Okay, this 0 2, and before this one. Okay, that is called concatenated matrix. Here it is taking place translation, rotational, scaling, all these things. Now, after homogeneous transformation, we can just discuss about the 3D transformation. Here, in in homogeneous transformation, we have the 3D matrix. Okay, whereas in the 3D transformation, we have the 4 by 4. One axis will be extra here. That is 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 will be extra here. That is, it is often necessary to display the object in 3D on the graphic screen using the transformations. The transform matrix developed for 2 by matrices can be extended to 3D here. You can extend it to 3D here. The scaling matrix in 3D is, you can see Sx, Xy, Xz. Here normally 3 direction now, X direction, Y direction, Z direction. Whereas in the previous 2D transformation, we have X and Y directions only. Whereas in this, we have the X axis, Y axis, Z axis. The normal, they will be 0 0 1 will be normal, this 0 0 0 1 will be normal. In translation, similarly, translation matrix, we have that is tx, ty, tz. Okay, tx, ty, tz, and this will be 0, 0, 1. This one diagonal will be one number. Okay, translation. Similarly, rotation. Rotation of the three can be x, y, z axis direction. You can see that rotation axis also. Rotation of about z axis, rz. Suppose I want to define the 3D transformation for the rz. That is, you can write x, y, cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta. The z will be displayed by 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, you keep this 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 here. This will be normal to the all fourth coordinate will be the normal 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 will be normal. Since it is I'm taking the rotation about z axis, I'm keeping 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1 in third axis. Similarly, if I go for the R axis, I'll keep all the values x0 in this direction. This is x, this is x. Okay, 0, 0, 1, I'm keeping 0, 0, 1. Then cos phi, minus sin phi, cos phi. So this fourth element will be same. 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 will be normal. This is Rx. Similarly, for the Ry, movement, rotation about y axis. So that will be, I am in y direction, I am keeping this value 0, 1, 0. This is x, this is y, this is z. This is x, this is y, this is z. So the y element will be 1. Okay. In x direction, the y1 will be showing here. In z direction, the z will be showing z direction. This is z direction 1. This is x 1 and this is 1. And similarly, y, this is the y axis, this is the y axis. So one way I am keeping here, remaining all cos phi, sin phi, minus sin phi, cos zeta. Okay. This is theta, phi, zeta. Okay. I am having three different angles also, notations. Cos theta, cos phi, then cos eta. Eta or zeta, maybe whatever it. Okay. So like this, we have the 3D transformations for the rotation along x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, all the things. Then transformation of geometry, that is translation, scaling, reflection, and mirror rotation. Okay. Reflection or revolving also you can say. Reflection or revolving also you can say. Here a translation you can see. Initial the comment x direction, about the y z direction, how much it is moving. That's point. This is the translation. About x direction it is showing x. About y direction it is can be showing. Scaling is doubled here. It is called scaling. So reflection, that is 25 degrees to the x axis minus x reflection. We can see the reflection. Rotation is rotating to the about 30 axis rotation means the initial image, final image. So initial image, final image, initial image, final image, initial image. This is final reflection about 25 degrees in y direction, and the rotation about 30 degrees. It is showing the rotation. Like this, translation, scaling, reflection, rotation. We have these four kind of different transformations. Now translation of the point, you can see x direction. We have p point. Okay, this is next point is p1. Okay, this is movement about p moment. Translation of a point from one point to another point. So you can define x dash, y dash, z dash. This is x, y, then this is z, x, y, z. This is the new point. After the translation, I am getting this new point. Now for that equation, you can see this moves a geometric entity in space in such a way that the new entity is parallel to all the points to the old entity. Okay, that is x star, y star. You can displacement about x, that is x plus dx, in displace amount to y, y plus dy. So here you can see this is the xy matrix, 2-bit matrix. This is x plus dx, x, y plus dy translation. So the how we can represent the translation matrix through the matrices is p star, then x y, then x dx, y plus dy. You can see the translation of a group of points plane. You can see the initial point will be like this. After moving to the dx direction, I am just shifting to this one, p star. For this is the x, this is the y. For this point, the x and this y will be y dash, y dash. So the dx is the movement about distance, plane angle. Sorry. The scaling is, you can represent that. Scaling is the transformation applied to change the scale of an entity. You can see sxx, sy, dy. Now the p, sx 0, y, sy, xy direction. Okay, scaling about 2 by 2 matrix. sx, xy, Now scaling of a plane figure, you can see this is the initial figure I'm having P point about SX distance about SY distance. Now I am moving this sum about SX distance, SY distance. The new scaling element will be like this. This is the doubled scaling of a plane figure, double scaling you can say. Then the third one is reflection or mirror. Okay, reflection mirror. Reflection or mirror is a transformation which allows a copy of the object is to be displayed while the object is reflected about a line or a plane. Okay, here you can see P 1 0 0 minus 1 x and y. Okay, so here the reflection 1 0 0 minus 1 the matrix and x. Suppose if you want to reflect along x axis, give the same values about x, about y axis give about value about y. So this is the notational representation of reflection matrix. So you can see this is possible reflection mirror transform of a 2D geometry. Here reflection about 2 by 2, 25 degrees in this direction, and x direction, this y direction, how much it is reflecting, 28, 28, and reflection about minus, this is how much it is reflecting. This again reflection to the y-axis, reflection to the x-axis also here. This is the combined reflection. An example of reflection transformation you can see. So this is the initial element y direction. Suppose I want to reflect in this direction, that will be minus y. So this will be my reflected point. Okay. Last one is rotation. Rotation is the final position and orientation of a geometry entity is decided with the angle of rotation and the base point about which the rotation theta. Okay, x, y, that is cos theta, minus sin theta, cos theta, and the direction which rotation you want, that is y direction, y direction. That is the rotation. This is the matrix representation for the rotational transformation. Okay. You can see rotational. So this is the initial element alpha. You can consider. This is the initial direction, x direction, x naught, and this is y, y naught. Okay. So initial will be that is this one p, and after making some inclination about theta, that is 30 degrees angle. So this is called your rotation transformation about x and about y axis. This is some example if you want to solve. So since we don't have the time to solve this one. Concatenation of matrices, that is, it is a multiple transformation, that is Tn, Tn minus 1, Tn minus 2, T3, translation, T2, T1 like this. If you multiply by all the matrices, you will get the concatenation of transformation. The concatenation is product of scaling, translation, rotation, and shearing. Homogeneous representation is that is x star y star 1, this is 0 1 dx and dy 0 0 1. Okay, if you want to represent in x direction, y direction will be x, but this is the representation. So, rotation about an arbitrary point, translate the point P to O, the origin of the axis system, rotate the object by a given angle, translate the point back to this position. You can see this is the you are getting this point, this point. Okay, according to this problem we can get a final point. This is the point we are getting, and after an example of reflection about this axis we are getting this point. Scaling about an arbitrary point, translate the point P to O, then origin of the axis system, rotate the object by given angle, translate the point back. You can see for this problem, so this will be your scaling. Okay, this point we are getting. After solving this scaling problem, we are getting this new element of scaling around x-axis and y-axis. And 3D transformation, you can represent how you are representing the 3D transformations. So like this 1 0 0 0 1 1 0 0, and the last will be 0 0 1. It will be this dx dy. The 3D transformation rotational about the x direction, y direction, z, all these things, x y z 1. Reflection also you can see around x y z 1. This is 0 1 1 0 0 0. Since it is x-axis, I represent 1 0 0 0, and in y-axis I represent 0 1 0 0, and z-axis I represent 0 0 1 0, and the last this will be now 0 0 1 0 0 will be normal. This is the reflection transmission of the matrix for the reflection. And 3D rotation about z-axis, you can see z-axis is this one, and x will be there, y will be there, cos theta minus sin theta, sin theta, cos theta, and this axis will be z. That is about the xy plane. Suppose if I want to go for the y-axis, I'll keep the values of y here, and x-axis I'll keep the value of x-axis here. XY plane, that is will be xz plane and yz plane. Like these three planes we have. You know the mathematics of projections, that is orthographic projection, isometric projection will be there normally. See the process principle of projection will be like this is a drawing, we can represent the object, these are the projector, projecting line we can represent, first angle or third angle projections we are using for the principle of projections. These are the figures. This is the axiometric view actually. This is the front view, this is the top view, this is the left side view, view from the left side, view from the right side. This is the back view. Okay, an object enclosed in a cube to obtain various parallel projections. You can see all this. You can define this is A, C. The C is your front view, B is top view, E is left hand side view, A is right side view, B is side view. Okay, you can see all this. That is, you can see this is the front view. From if you are representing from this side, this is your front view. Top view will be this, and bottom view, right side view, left side view, and this is the rear view. Rear view. So all the 6 views we can be representing. This is how you are representing through the transformations. So thank you so much. This is sorry.
So Sudhakar sir, thank you so much, sir. And now I request the
thank you.
participants, if you have any questions, please ask directly to the sir. Now the chat box is also open. Any participant? I'm requesting the participants. Yeah, from participants, any participants? Yeah, please kindly unmute your mic and ask the question.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, how will the effect of scaling be on the robot?
How the effect of scaling a robot? See what kind of movement we are giving to the gripper and all the things depending on the scaling. How much you are giving scaling in S direction, how much we are moving in Y direction, how much we are moving. We can give it through scaling also. Not only scaling, we can use the rotation and reflection, mirror, and the shearing also we can give.
Okay, sir. What will be the effect of shearing, sir? Shearing
again, which direction you are taking, X, Y. So suppose if you are going for the homogeneous transformation. Okay, homogeneous transformation, we have the 3x matrix, 3x3 matrix, but the scaling will be in X and Y direction only. If you are going for the 3D transformation, the matrix will be 4x4, but in direction will be X direction, Y direction, Z direction will be scaling.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, any participants is there? Please kindly ask. Yeah, okay. Okay, now I request to Professor P. Venkataraman sir, please kindly share a few words about today's session.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation. You have given complete 360 degrees information on robotics by focusing on 2D and 3D transformations, types of robots, sensors, elements of robots, and particularly on robot programming. It is practically more useful, sir, really. And also covered homogeneous transformations, elaborated on different contents, rotation, scaling, translation. Really, it is useful for the participants Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
And
sir. Thank you
also,
so much.
once again, and thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation in spite of your busy schedule.
Okay. Thank you, sir. No problem.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Tomorrow,
you.
sir, again.
Yeah, and now I
Yeah,
request
yeah. Okay, sir.
Emma
Tomorrow
madam,
we'll meet.
please kindly share the few words. Yeah, Dr. P. Emma madam is working as assistant professor in SP University. Please kindly share the few words.
Very good evening, one and all. Let me take the opportunity to thank Dr. P. Sudhakar Rao sir regarding the introduction on almost looking at the contents of the presentation, what the SAR has dealt. It's almost he has covered all the aspects of the course which mainly deals with the introduction to the industrial robotics. He has started with the basic definition of why we need a robot, what exactly you mean by a robot, etc. Then he has been to that transformation, and he has been to the different types of translations and how exactly it has been done. And we are highly grateful to you, sir, because you introduced to all the participants regarding what exactly the robotics is and how exactly it will be dealt as an course perspective. Thanks a lot, sir. With this introduction, hopefully the participants might have received the gist of the content, how to define a robot and what are the different aspects and what do you mean by work cell and how exactly you are going to have an transformation and how exactly you are defining the translation vectors and how exactly you are measuring the movements of the robot, teaching the robot to move in one particular direction. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for your very patient presentation, and almost you have covered the entire topics of robotics.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We'll meet
Again.
tomorrow, sir. Okay.
We'll meet tomorrow, sir, again.
So thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks to the patients, participants, for your patience listening from the morning. Tomorrow we'll meet again. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to the participants. Tomorrow we'll meet again as per schedule.
Tomorrow 9:30 as per schedule.
Thank you, sir.
Is there?
Afternoon, sir.